All right, I'll be the first one to admit that is a provocative title. Cigars win elections. But back in the day, 1800s day, that's how it used to be. Now, it's a whole different world back then, okay? There were tons and tons and tons and tons of cigar manufacturers everywhere. Every town had two or three or four, this and that. Everybody was smoking cigars. And I'm not going to get into the back and forth of why they started making cigar bands, but tobacco retailers are smart. They make their money off selling cigars. They make their money off selling good cigars because you're not going to buy a second one if the first one sucked, right? So they're going to draw a buzz to get you into their place. Now, they had cigars everywhere. They had them in bars. I know. They had them in restaurants. I know. They had them in all sorts of venues and hangouts, not just cigar lounges. It was everywhere. People were smoking all over the place, right? Living the dream. Men, women, no children, hopefully. They were smoking cigars. And so some very, very smart retailers said, you know what? We need to sell more cigars. So what if we got cigar manufacturers to make cigars in a box, and in the box, I didn't do it, I'm too lazy, but in the box you had a couple elected officials here, let's say presidents. So one president candidate would be here, another president candidate would be here, and the cigar band would go in the box, right? And then everybody came and hung out at the cigar lounge because they wanted to see who's winning. Like a straw poll, but it's a cigar poll, cigar band poll. Now, whoever my elected official would be, the person that I would vote for, of course, has to be a person that is without compromise. So this Sin Compromiso by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust would be the one that I would have. Now, I think we could elect Steve Saka as president, but then again, he'd get so busy he couldn't make cigars. So for my selfishness, I'm not going to put him in the write-in ballot, but I could. He's smart. He's funny. He's engaging. Did I say smart? He is without compromise. Has a great crew, great team. Light it up a little longer. So let's talk about this just a little bit. It used to be, well, first of all, cigars are great, right? I'm going to tell you that for sure. They do so many things. They give you that pause. Lord knows we need it. They employ tons and tons of people using handmade crafts from a long time ago. They provide economies with money. Some countries, cigars is basically their economy. It helps put food on the table. It gives you a pause. It gives you a moment to celebrate. It gives you a moment to think. It gives you a moment to grieve. It gives you a moment to bring people together. It gives you excuses to hang out. And Lord knows sometimes we need excuses. It gives you something to pass down. I remember my grandpa when he used to smoke White Owls or he used to smoke blah, blah, blah. And boy, it gives you a moment to reminisce, right? It gives you a moment to when that child is 21. They can sit down with the elders of their family and feel like they're stepping into manhood by smoking a cigar, or womanhood, right? But this is kind of neat. Now you can type in cigars for voting, cigars for elections, and you'll have lots of images of lots of boxes of different elected officials on the box, and you would take and they would put the boxes on the counter, and people would go in and they would pull the bands off when they smoked the cigar. They pulled the bands off, they put it in the box, and you could kind of see who more people are voting for. Now, that's cool. It draws a crowd. It does. And it sells cigars. Because if I like candidate A, and I usually smoke 2 cigars a week, let's say, cigars were like 3 cents to a nickel back then. Of course, I don't know how much wages were, but they weren't what they are now. But, they were affordable. instead of buying 2 or 3 cigars, if my guy was losing, I'd go in 4 or 5 times a week and buy cigars and put the bands in there because I wanted to stuff the ballot box, cigar box. I want to make sure that my guy was well represented in the box that the bands were in. This was before social media. This was before YouTube, the internet, Instagram, X, all these other platforms. It was before we were inundated with so much information and so much misinformation that we kind of had to hang out and talk. It was back when elected officials or people trying to be elected would get on a train and they would go from town to town to town and they would have town hall meetings. And if you were a smaller person, a mayor, a governor, a sheriff, you would have get-togethers and pig pickings and events like that. You'd have parades. You'd have all sorts of stuff. Yes, there were differences in the two candidates or the 3 or 4 candidates or however many candidates, but it didn't come to where it was so polarizing that you had to hate the other person because they didn't vote the way you voted. You didn't sully the person beyond repair. You would spend more time talking about how those people would make the country better and would make your life better. In many ways, I like to go back to that. I like to go back to the simplicity of having a cigar box sitting on a bar or a lounge or a shop or wherever, and people are putting bands in. Give me something to look forward to. Give me something to go in and have conversations about around the water cooler at work. It'd be kind of neat. So, I highly recommend 2 things right now in this video. Number 1, I recommend you vote. That is the only way that your voice can be heard and make a difference is by casting a vote. It's your vote. You make this world a better place, you make this country a better place, and you know what? You need to speak up for the things that you feel that you need. Whether you agree with me or not, I really don't care. I'd like this country to be represented by the desires of the majority. If we pick the wrong desires, we deal with the consequences. We move on. Something to be said about learning from experiences. I would also recommend number 2. There's going to be a number 3. I'd also recommend number 2 that you smoke cigars. Smoke more cigars. Why? Well, not so the cigar manufacturers can sell more cigars, which they will if you smoke more, but because you need a moment of pause. You need a peace. And thirdly, please, if you can, try to avoid as much as possible from sponsoring, adding to, being a part of divisive content. It is okay to have differences of opinion. It is okay to not like what somebody is believing in. I believe it's not okay to just lambaste and blast people because of X, Y, and Z. I don't think it benefits our country. I don't think it benefits us. I purposely have, this is just me, on my Facebook feed, which I look at a lot more than I should probably, all sorts of different people. People who are completely opposite with the lifestyle I live, completely opposite with the opinions that I have, and people that do. And I don't blast those people. I look at where they are, I look at what they're doing, and I look to see if there is merit in what they believe for me. And then I make my decisions upon that. A wise man once told me a long time ago, or I read it somewhere, if you're arguing with somebody and you can figure out a better way for them to argue their point against you, help them. Because it's not about being right or wrong. It's about finding truth. So, find truth. Be awesome. Don't be divisive. And smoke more cigars. And I got to tell you, if you're going to smoke more cigars, smoke great cigars. And I say Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. This heifer right here is without compromise. And don't write Saka in for president, because I want more Saka cigars and he get too busy. Please. I love you. I'll see you later. Later, Tater.